It's time for the Ship's Gonna Happen podcast. Here with a load of laughs, info, and fun, it's Tony B, Dave B, and Timmy D.
Before I go alone. Don't ask me this and one more song. It ain't too costly, no, I ain't too cheap, so just relax. I'm on my knees.
Ooh, good morning, Dave B.
Good morning, producer Tony.
You're listening to Ship's Gonna Happen Podcast 117. Happy Saturday to you. Timmy D should slide in. You're listening to Ship's Gonna Happen Podcast, episode number 117. The views of the Ship's Gonna Happen do not express the views of any trucking entity or any business entity that uses a trucking company provider. We purely do it for the
Transportainment.
kaboom. That's right, transportainment. David B, I think they know how to catch us on all the platforms. You can catch us on YouTube. Just Google our names, put it in a search engine, and you'll find us, right?
Yep. Good morning, producer Tony. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. Beautiful. I love. This is my favorite time of year. I know Tony's favorite time of year
I like
is when
the
it's
heat.
a lot. But to each their own.
Yeah.
Each their own. That's
This
all
is
right.
nice, though.
Yeah, nice, comfortable.
Football weather.
Yeah, there we go. Beautiful colors are changing. You got a red tree across the street from you here with just nothing but red leaves on it. Looks good.
Yep.
Beautiful Saturday morning. Good college. This is a college football game day morning. This show, along with all of our other shows, are brought to you by The Great Divide, 743 East New York Street, downtown Indianapolis. Great place to go after Ship's Gonna Happen week. Great place to go to unwind, get a great meal, chat it up with the locals, hear some good music, get some good beverages, kind of hang out after for a little while. I want to thank them for putting the billboard up for us again.
Yeah.
I think our billboard's up more than the show is
It's,
anymore.
I know.
I'm joking. I don't mean
We
that
skipped some
seriously.
shows. Or
So,
not
but-
skipped shows, but missed some times to record.
Yeah, so our billboard's up about, it's on I-65 South, about the 99-mile marker on the south side of Indy. Nice big red. It's part of a rotating billboard, so it's not always up, but we appreciate them taking that up or putting that up
It's a
for
big
us.
deal.
And help us, for our advertising. So very, very nice of them, and
It's
we
very
appreciate
cool.
their continued support. Thanks for having us. A couple weeks ago, thanks to Jeremy for filling in for Tim. Nolan was there, a young Nolan who's just kind of new in the brokerage industry. He did a great
Well, it's
job.
fun.
Francois was there, and we also got to interview Sean. So it was,
Yeah.
it was a really good time, and thanks to them for all their support. They continue to supporting us with our podcast every week. Producer Tony, it's been a little while since we've had an actual show. We're going to concentrate on some industry news, and a lot of things have been going on since last time you and I have had a chance to talk.
Yeah, man, sorry for the rough opening there. I had those Bluetooth things in, and there seems to be a little delay in those.
Tony's got new headphones.
speakers. Yeah, I took them off during the intro there, but anyways, yeah, we've got some hot stuff here. There's a good story I think I picked out. It's made some industry rounds there, and you've got some topics. So,
Yeah.
and you've got a good random thought to come up. Tim probably will slide in, hopefully here in a second. We haven't had him on lately, or he hasn't been on the show lately. So, but he's doing good, and hopefully he slides on in. But yeah, so. What did you have on
So
your
I just
mind,
kind of
Dave?
had some industry topics, and one of the topics that and I'll let you have that topic. One of the topics that I had was also one of yours, so which is good. So we're on the same page. And while I don't ever want to discuss bad news in the industry, you always want to try to be encouraging. One of the headlines that stuck out is that Knight Swift reports a 69% earnings drop in Q3, which is, not necessarily something that you really see. And without really reading through the article, I mean, right off, it has to be because of how soft the market is right now. I mean, it's a super soft market. Rates are coming down to where, like on my end of the business, to kind of the way they should be. I'll kind of read into this a little bit more, that the Knight Swift holding on October 19th reported its third quarter earnings dropped by 69% year over year, even as revenue increased. What?
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
Yeah. So there's a Phoenix-based truckload carrier posted a net income of $60.2 million, or 37 cents per diluted share, compared with $194.8 million from the year previous. So, however, total revenue increased by 6.5%.
Wow.
So I wonder if that just means that they had a bunch of layoffs or
Yeah.
like that. So, but anyway, kind of didn't really expect to see that headline, but it still seems like they're probably checking their way. And they also they own AAA Cooper too, don't they?
Yep.
Is that right? So
They've spent a lot of money in the past couple years, so maybe some of that's catching up.
right. And then Yellow is, I'm just going to kind of read through some other industry headline news. I'm sorry, we're kind of
Hit it.
so Yellow aims to appoint auction houses for rolling stock sale. So that's with their assets. I mean, it's already been determined that Estes is going to take over their properties. And then now this is for their trucks and tractors and stuff like that. Or yeah, for their trailers and tractors.
There's a lot of them.
Oh yeah, that's got to be. Let's see here.
You got a small company that could replenish its fleet.
So Toyota's going to join Tesla with the EV charging network, which I'm assuming is just probably getting ports places for
Throughout the country, yeah.
There's Tony's story right there. Excuse me. One thing I will talk about, especially on my end of the business, it's in the last 3 weeks, it has gotten crazy the amount of people that are soliciting for business, and that it just drives me nuts. I don't return those phone calls or emails, but it's been almost a constant bombardment of brokers looking for freight.
Brokers.
Yeah. Oh, hey, we can, and of course, your normal POS companies are out there like TQL and whoever else, and it's just, they just a constant bombardment, and it gets to be just. Of course, when it gets into the wrong person's hands, you kind of have to backpedal and do a little damage control. So let's see through here. Sorry for the. There we go. Let's see. Oh,
it's hard to run a trucking company.
Yeah, CSX profits fall by 24%.
CX Rail.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
which is
24%.
Yeah,
that's a big dog too.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Yeah, and then you hear about a bunch of these brokers that aren't doing well. Tim had sent a link that there was a Montana-based brokerage that just shut its doors.
Yeah, I saw that
a couple weeks ago.
I read
or whatever.
that.
X amount, 100 or so people without their job.
I got another one.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Oh, wait. You wait till you're done.
Yeah.
But.
No, you're good. You're good. No, yeah. I'm just a little bit. JB Hunt, third quarter profit slide 30.4% year to date.
Oh yeah, so it's coming down.
And again, I don't like to come on here and talk about the negative stuff. It's just kind of what the industry headlines.
It is what it is.
Yeah. There's a. Bear with me, and again, these headlines come to us from Transport Topics. So. One of the headlines is autonomous trucks could create safer roads, better jobs. So there's an autonomous truck story. I don't hear a lot about people seeing or knowing of any autonomous trucks. At least I don't hear about any. So, and that's kind of it for me, I think, as far as industry headline stuff is concerned. There's some other stories through here, but nothing that's.
Well, you're right, because I'm looking at it now. A lot of the trucking stocks are down.
Okay.
Saia's up right now a little bit. TFI International's up. Werner's up. Martin's up. Schneider's up. XPO is up. Just barely, but
all right. So,
Mark Best a little bit. Old Dominion down a little bit.
So there's a Flexport. I'm assuming they're a freight brokerage. Flexport Logistics Company lays off 165 employees out of Bellevue, Washington. It's 20% of its workforce. So it's unfortunate to hear that, but I think a lot of these numbers just reflect what people were trying to do during the pandemic when freight was just kind of booming as far as the cost of freight was concerned.
Yeah.
And I think these are just kind of numbers that are bringing things back down to where they.
I think because it's a mixed bag of apples. Like here, you got Old Dominion down 3%. You got TFI up, Saya up, XPO up. So I think ARC up. I think it's like maybe, and you've got like at the screen I'm looking at, it's like 30 of them, and probably half of them are down, half of them are up slightly. So maybe it's just managing, like you're saying, the coming out of the COVID and all that, and getting the numbers, your people and all that kind of right sized the way it was before all that. But who knows?
It would be nice to see rates. I mean, rates have came down, but rates aren't down to where I think that rates should be down. And of course, and if you're a driver, I'm sure you're thinking the opposite, that rates should be up and where they were, a year or two ago or whatever. But just to maintain any sort of, I'm sure the profit margin on the company that I work for, they're always looking at the cost of freight. Always. I mean, anytime we do a quarterly meeting thing, the number one thing they say is, well, it costs a lot of money to get. Yeah, it does. But I mean, you can't haul it for free or whatever. So it's just part of business.
Well, it's always like you guys are big and go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say fuel isn't helping matters either.
Right. So, I know that's always sucks when that goes up, but, you'd be surprised on my side of the fence. You go into some of these accounts and shipping's the last thing they think of. And they're shocked with the cost, and they're like, wow.
Shocked by, they think it's too high, or they're naive
They just
enough to
never
think that it's
put
okay.
it in the budget. They just never put the freight cost in the budget. There's some smaller companies that, hey, I got a product. I'll never forget the story. A guy who sold something to 4,000 Home Depot stores, and he didn't have a dock. And he goes, Tony, what do I do? And I'm like, well, I got to set you up with our Home Depot. This is at another company with our Home Depot experts. And they told him, you have to build a dock. We're not going to be able to go pick up 4,000 store shipments without a dock. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, oh, crap. And then he built a dock, and it wasn't the best dock. But very highly intelligent guy, was able to retire from the whole project he did, but just didn't think about the shipping. You know what I mean?
I think that mindset has always been like, oh, it'll work itself out. That part will just work itself out.
Home Depot somehow will come get it, or
you blink and it'll it'll get itself there or whatever.
The guy creates an ingenious product, lots of brain cells, but can't figure out. But you know what? That adds into the story, though, here a little bit that I got. So
to your story?
Yeah, because it's hard to run a trucking company. It is hard to run a trucking company.
I mean, I think about over the years, just on your side of the business, the amount of trucking companies that have just gone by the wayside. Yeah. There's been quite a few. Yeah. More than what you'd think. Even the amount of years that I've been in the industry, there's been a ton of companies that have just.
So yeah, when you first started, who did you primarily use?
A&R Advance.
Okay.
Preston.
Yeah.
Those
they're all gone.
Are gone.
Yeah, and they were good carriers for what they did.
Was Brant one of them?
Oh yeah, Brant wasn't bad either.
Yeah, Overnight,
yeah.
Overland,
yeah, Overland. I forgot about them.
Yep. And again, even back in those days, you kind of gave business to the rapport people, the people that you had your rapport with.
Yeah, right.
Roadway.
Yeah, Roadway. Did they come in later into your life at that stage? Or were they all already in?
They were. Good question. They were already there, but you weaned some people out too.
Because when you and
like American Freightways.
Okay, yeah. Because when you and I started back in the day, you had to use certain carriers to the West Coast.
True. That's a good point.
And you had to use certain, but you could pick your Midwest freight probably pretty easy.
Right. Yeah. For sure. And now it's also to the point, and Tony and I had this conversation earlier in the week, that there's legitimately carriers that are like, nah, we're not interested.
Yeah, which is surprising.
It just baffles me.
Yeah.
Completely baffles me. As soft as the market is right now, nah.
But let me ask you this: so when you go back to your first transportation job, did you have how many next day carriers did you have? Because we know what we have today, but some of those were still around. But did they call on you? They didn't have like a Dayton Freight back in the late 80s, 90s didn't have a big say in Indianapolis.
Right. Yeah. I don't think Dayton Freight was, it seems like it was the late 90s or early 2000s where it really caught wind of them. Probably, 5 A&R Advance, Overland. Was Holland a good regional in that time?
Probably,
USF,
yeah.
Because it was USF Holland.
Right.
Then
they were TNT for a while too, right? TNT
yeah.
Holland.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were strong back then.
Yeah. Overnight. I don't know that we used I think we used overnight more as for like the long haul with roadway. Roadway and overnight seemed to be the long haul LTL regionals, A&R Advance, Brant.
Advance, I forgot about them. Brant. Yeah.
Yeah. There's Preston was more long haul.
Were they good? Preston? I heard they were good.
They were awesome.
Yeah.
I remember. I think I was out with them the night before
they went out.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. They got bought out and then they got shut down.
I did a terminal tour that day, and there was like a "Welcome Dave Boyle" sign.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
I mean, inside the building, like on a little pegboard thing, back in the day.
Who was your rep at Preston?
Man, that name is right there.
But they retired probably shortly. They're not around
I think
today.
They're still in the business.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was young. If somebody said the name, I would be like, yeah.
Yeah. That's a tough question.
Yeah, it was but again, it was report based, and we ended up at Acapulco Joe's on Illinois.
Oh yeah. That's a good place.
Yeah, it was.
Back in the day, yeah.
It was.
I've been there.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the next morning or the next day they had went out of business.
Were you like, what the hell?
Yeah. 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 And back
Did the bar tab you guys had put them out?
Yeah. Yeah. Back then, I can imagine the bar tab was like next to nothing. And I really, at that time, to be honest with you, I wasn't a big drinker then.
But they got bought out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you knew that.
Yeah.
But no one knew they'd shut them down.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I wanted to say. Yeah. And now I can, that it seemed like everything yellow fucking touched, they fucked up. Excuse my language. Yeah. Time for the beep.
This sure does seem like that.
Yeah. And I don't want to rain on, it's not trying to rain on whatever.
You're not.
But just, Preston was a good company. Jones Express, remember them?
They're still around. That's the oldest. That might be, I think they're one of the oldest carriers in the history of America.
I'll be darned.
I think they're Jones Logistics now. They're a logistics company. I have to look it up, but they got bought out, I think. Yeah.
But then that was also of the time where everybody kind of knew everybody and everybody would associate with everybody. Like if there was a traffic club function or something, everybody would go and not be concerned.
Yeah, those were big.
Not be concerned that Dave was talking to,
right?
A&R Advance.
You giving my freight away, Dave?
Yeah. What are you talking to them for? They're not buying me drinks like you're buying me drinks. So I'm just talking.
Don't talk to them, Dave. You only got 5 minutes.
Trying to be nice. Yeah. So, and anyway,
it's just amazing
the way things have changed. When you read these stories about carriers or companies that have gone out of business, like I have some really good friends that are just kind of new into the business, and I tell them, stay small, stay small. There's a company in Brownsburg, awesome people that they're probably 20 to 25 years in the business, and I would call them small, and I think they do really well, and they could, write their own ticket and stay in business for a long time. If you just find your niche, stay in that lane, and I think you'll do fine.
Do you think, that's good advice, do you think you have more options today as a shipper than you did back in the day?
Boy, that's a good question.
Or the same?
I would say there are more options, but I wouldn't say they're better options, because there's
Yeah.
And we talked about this with Nolan a couple weeks ago. It's a saturated market. That brokerage market is a saturated market. And just because somebody's a brokerage, like there's some people that worked at Yellow that have been reaching out to me. One that, UPS kind of has their own brokerage division.
Yeah.
And one of the guys went to work for them, and they submitted rates for us, and their rates are garbage.
Yeah.
Absolute garbage. I have no problem with telling them, these are trash. These are absolutely trash rates.
Yeah.
I'm like, but like you said earlier, though, people don't think about, there's companies that don't think about what it's going to cost to get from A to B, and they probably think those rates are like, oh yeah, these are great.
They're easy to do. Yeah, it's not.
More options, but I wouldn't say they're better options. I need, like when Yellow went, and I'll say this, there's not ever going to be another Yellow. There's never going to be another Yellow.
Right.
I'm not advocating for people hauling my freight for.
I know what you're saying. One that's, it's amazing what Roadway and Yellow accomplished in their over, damn near 100 years old carriers. But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. The history of it.
Mm-hmm. There's Tony here in the ShipsGonnaHappen studio. Tony has a little die-cast Roadway truck and trailer on one of his shelves, and that could maybe be worth some pennies here.
I know, might be. Probably an old Roadway person out there might be willing to buy it for a couple thousand. There's a funny story about that though. They used to give you all the die-cast that you wanted, and then eBay came out, and Roadway found out that the company and headquarters in Akron would actually buy these and find out that reps were selling them on eBay.
Really?
Yeah. So then you were limited to kind of how many you could purchase. So then they kind of controlled it. And then also there was, it's a sad story. There was the last die-cast maker was in Kansas. And the reason I know this is I used to have to call in Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Okay. And they would get all the die-casts for their events. And there were two, then it came down to one. We were 3-day transit and someone else was 2-day. So they gave it to the 2-day. I was like, man, dude, but our rate's the same, but they're a day faster. So we lost it. But I don't even know if that company is in business anymore in Kansas. I would doubt that die-cast is being done in America. That's for all the little cars and NASCARs and trucks and stuff. Yep. But David, you think it's hard to run a carrier?
Yeah,
trucking company.
I don't know that I would want to even remotely think about it in this day and age. It just seems like it would be just one big headache after another.
I mean, you could be like, and this is, hang on, we'll get into it here. Ooh, it's hard. It's so hard to run a carrier, a trucking company. It's hard.
Yeah.
It'd be hard to run a trucking company. So anyways, it's hard to run a trucking company. You just could ask Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates.
What?
They owned a company called Convoy. And Convoy, Wednesday morning at 7:30 a.m., told everybody that it's kind of over.
Did they cease operations or no? And what kind of? So I've never seen a Convoy trailer. What kind of company is Convoy? And I'm sorry, I'm ignorant with this.
Seattle-based startup whose investors, Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates, will slash hundreds of jobs in the coming days as it prepares to woo prospective buyers, according to a person familiar with the matter. The once buzzy startup, often described as Uber for trucking, has already whittled its staff down to about 500 people from over 1,500 and was on track to run out of money in a matter of weeks. In a matter of weeks, said people familiar with the matter. Majority of the remaining employees will be let go in an effort to make Convoy more attractive to potential acquirers. How in the heck do you shut something down and sell it?
So read that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Read that last sentence one more time to make it more attractive to what?
To buyers.
Who's going to buy it?
I don't know. So majority of the.
Am I wrong with that analogy?
It's a great story. It's a crazy story. A majority of the remaining employees will be let go in an effort to make Convoy more attractive to potential acquirers, most likely established companies in the trucking industry that
What are you buying?
Yeah. that the startup was trying to disrupt. So evidently they tried to create a startup that would, kind of disrupt the industry and be so attractive that someone would want to buy. But I don't know. It's a weird story.
So can you? I'm sorry, Tony. Can you fill me in a little bit on what kind of company this is?
This is like a truckload.
brokerage?
It's a truckload. It's a truckload brokerage outfit.
Oh.
Yeah, all data based, high tech. Yeah. So the masterminds, Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos.
Who's the mastermind?
I don't know, but apparently it's hard to start a trucking company, right? So they've been told to take on no more new customers as they go through this thing to sell the company. It's just the most bizarre story. So then there's a guy who did an article. The article I just read, highlighted, came from Fortune, and it was written by Spencer.
It was in Transport Topics also.
Yeah. This was written by Spencer Soper, Diana Bass, and Bloomberg staff. So on Fortune. But yeah, then there's a dude that wrote an article that says, so the person they put in charge of the company came from Amazon with absolutely no background in trucking.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. No pedigree, no experience in trucking, couldn't figure out how to play the game, is what several people here that wrote this article. Maria Heater, Ann Guillen, Nick Wingfield, and Theo Way. How a startup trucking convoy drove itself into the ground is the article.
That's the name of the article.
Yeah, it's the name of the
All
article.
right.
How a trucking startup company convoy drove itself into the ground. Yeah, it's actually kind of a good article. I think it was $900 million they put into this thing to start it up and get it going.
Wow.
So you can throw billions at it apparently and not be successful at running a trucking company. No. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. Because it is difficult to run a trucking company. There's a lot of things that go into it.
My listening skills aren't the best, Tony. When again was it that they kind of got going or that they started up? And I apologize for...
That's okay, man. No, it's a good question.
So I'm just trying to figure out the timeline here on how quick they realized that they had effed up.
Well, it's going to be, let's see, I don't think it's that old. 18, wait. Convoy's plan to transform the trucking industry has come to a screeching halt. The Seattle company is closing its core business and laying off a majority of its workforce. We hoped this day would never come, CEO Dan Lewis from Amazon, former Amazon employee, wrote in a memo to employees sent Thursday. The startup sent shockwaves through the Seattle tech ecosystem and broader trucking sector. I never even heard about it. After abruptly shutting its operations on Wednesday. 18 months ago, they were valuated. The company raised $260 million at a $3.8 billion valuation just 18 months ago. So I think it's maybe 2 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So
so you knew from the get-go that you were doomed. Or you knew from the get-go that it was you were on the struggle bus.
Oh yeah, you had to.
From the get-go.
Yeah. Then you put a guy in charge who knows nothing about trucking.
What's Gates and Bezos? I mean, you would think, what are they? To them, it's just like, this is just a failed thing, whatever.
Yeah, it's let's sell it. Let's sell the technology piece of it. It's probably.
But what is it that they have that other?
I don't know, man.
I'm just trying to.
No, I know. Because I thought about that. I don't know. It can't be.
Because that little startup brokerage thing that I was telling you about, there's already been somebody approach them to buy them out.
Right.
Well, what are you buying? You're not buying nothing.
Yeah, I know.
If you think that your customer base is going to go where, I'm like, what? Anyway,
yeah,
I just don't understand that. You knew you would, whatever.
So it says it's a challenging time from freight brokers because truck capacity is plentiful. That means shippers can find attractive rates with large asset-based carriers versus smaller trucking companies like the ones Convoy targeted. Tim Denoyer, Vice President and Senior Analyst of ACT Research, said he's seeing shippers move freight loads to their privately owned fleets, which hurts brokerage market. At that time, digital brokerages such as Convoy,
Digital
brokerages such as Convoy are facing liquidity crunch, according to Craig Fuller, CEO at freight industry news site FreightWaves. Convoy was a victim of a violent, commoditized industry that is facing one of its deepest recessions in decades and a sudden change in investor appetite from risk to unit economics, Fuller wrote on Wednesday. Wow, that's a mouthful. Yeah, it's hard to run a trucking company.
Digitalized brokerage.
Yeah.
Is it what makes it digitalized? Just the dashboard, or is
I'm gonna look that up.
I'm not
I never heard
trying
that
to
term.
No,
it's a good question.
Is it digitalized because you? Yeah, I don't understand that. It's not your. Is it autonomous? Like and by autonomous, I mean, do you, or just the compute? It's just a computer solicitation, or
okay.
Where,
great question, brother.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, very good question. What is a digitalized broker? A digital brokerage leverages modern technologies to connect its brokers, insurers, current policyholders, and prospective clients. It automates business operations to transform into paperless brokerage, saving time.
I still don't know what that
I don't know what the heck that meant. Because isn't everybody doing it anyway?
My brain just oozed out my ears.
Yeah, apparently it's tough to be a digitalized broker too. And a running trucking company. I don't know. It kind of almost seems like they're trying to crypto it. You know what I mean? In a way,
how's that?
Like that technology kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Didn't go well.
Let's get. What was that gentleman's name that I met in Kentucky? That we had him on. He was really good guy.
Oh, the professor.
Yeah.
From Duke
University.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He was about doing the broker or the crypto for loans.
Transactions.
Transactions. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And there's their cost would be cheaper.
Jimmy Lands.
Yeah. There's a great podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He was an excellent guest.
It looks like it's in that mode.
I see.
So it actually would be good to ask him that.
Yeah, that's kind of the first person I thought of.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
It is. And I mean, to that company's credit, maybe great job for trying out what you need to do, but maybe you should give it a little bit more of a trial run before you jumped in. And I don't know. Change isn't necessarily always for the good or bad, I guess.
So here's another definition. A digital freight broker is an online matchmaker that connects individual companies to shipping carriers with truck drivers. That's already kind of being done, right? Mm-hmm. I don't see.
Isn't that what a DAP board is?
Right. It's already happening. I don't know how they connect the technology that comes right to the drivers that are involved in it versus having to go to a board. I don't know.
Not sure. But,
you're in their group and it comes to you, or do you don't have to search? I don't know.
Mm.
Here's the load. Bam.
That's how those smaller mom and pops, they rely on those brokers or whatever.
Oh, yeah. A digitalized brokerage for small trucking company.
I saw that headline and I kind of briefly read over that article, but I didn't, because I was going to have that as my thing. But then I'm like, I don't know. Let me see if there's other stuff.
I made the mistake of clicking on it because I was like, I never heard of them.
That's why I did too.
And it didn't broadcast the names who owned it.
Mm.
And then I was like, then I dug a little deeper and I'm like, oh my God. It's the richest people in the world own this trucking company.
When I clicked on it, I actually thought it was going to be like an autonomous vehicle thing. So
that's fizzed out. It's funny. I'm like, Bill Gates? What technology can he bring to your platform? Right? And Bezos, he's got all the money. And Amazon's Amazon server network, right? I mean, our military the United States military uses Amazon server networks.
Yeah, you just got to think that this was a failed experiment, and just like, meh.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money for a failed experiment.
God, 900 million. Jeez.
Imagine
Yeah.
not making it work.
Oh my gosh. But anyways, it's hard to run a trucking company, Dave.
Digging this music.
Oh yeah.
Like it.
It's hard to run a trucking company. Yeah. Boom. Hard. All right.
It's amazing the amount of people I meet it's amazing the amount of people that I meet that are in this industry, have been in this industry, or about to go into this industry. Almost seems like on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I meet somebody, like a new person that's had some tie into this industry, which is just kind of baffling a little bit. But you're like, but logistics is always something.
Tim at the bar ends up telling us he used to drive a truck.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
I'm shocked.
Painter
Tim.
Yeah.
Nice man.
Yeah, I'd like to get him on the podcast. He'd be a good.
We should. He seemed like he said he might be interested in doing the phone call.
Yeah, he lives in Newcastle.
Yeah.
So, but if it's a Saturday morning and he's not doing
what did he say? The sign of Steve Alford still up?
Yeah, the ghost.
And Kent Benson.
The ghost of Steve Alford and Kent Benson.
And I forgot.
Still weigh heavily.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
I forgot Kent Benson was from there.
I did not know that.
Yeah, shockingly.
Yeah.
But
did not know that. Where is Steve Alford today?
That's a good question. I'll look it up. Man, I thought he was coaching.
He seems like he's bounced around a bit.
He has. I think the goal is
he's a horse's ass.
Really?
That's
yeah.
what I hear.
Well,
I don't know that to be
probably
factual.
true.
I don't know that to be factual. Those of you that are whatever IU fans, I'm not trying to be whatever.
Steve, Nevada, University of Nevada.
Okay.
4 seasons there.
All right. Probably not a bad spot.
No, I would think that would be a pretty good
gig. Is that a D1
gig.
school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I think you're right. He's been bounced around a little bit.
Iowa, New Mexico State, or just New Mexico?
University of New Mexico. I think
UCLA.
Good memory. He coached first Manchester, then Southwest Missouri State, Iowa, New Mexico, UCLA, and then now at Nevada.
So those of you listening, Manchester University here in Indiana is where Manchester is at, right?
Yeah.
Yep. That's probably a D3
Yeah,
school.
I think it is. Yep. Yeah. It's in Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Is it?
Man, that school's
Is it
old.
Fort Wayne or Huntington? Is it in Fort Wayne? I'm not contradicting.
North Manchester.
Okay.
Fort Wayne.
Okay. Yep.
Founded in 1860.
Damn.
Wow, that's an old school, man. That's Abraham Lincoln was president. Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I'm a big, I don't know about you, Tony, and I'm a nerd with this. I like universities with like their architecture, and I just think universities are good little kind of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm intrigued.
IU, Bloomington, one of the most beautiful campuses in the entire country.
Where Tracy went.
Yeah. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's nostalgic.
Yeah. And I bet to your point with that, I bet Manchester's probably the same way. I bet it's a really nice campus. Just thinking out loud.
Yeah, the older school, older buildings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna look it up here. Manchester University, Indiana.
Yeah.
Images. Oh yeah. She's a beauty.
Oh, I bet.
It looks like wow.
Was one of the guys for.
You should see their football field. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was going to say there was one of the guys that works for one of the brokers in Indy that played at Manchester.
Manchester Spartans.
Okay,
is that a private?
Would not have guessed that.
I didn't know that either.
I would assume it is. Wouldn't you? A private. Does it say?
It is private. Yeah,
Mhm.
private liberal arts school.
Marion's private.
Oh yeah, Marion is too. I forgot about that.
UIndy's private. You're listening to the Ship's Gonna Happen podcast on this beautiful college football game day Saturday morning.
Big game today for the Buckeyes.
It is.
Big game, Penn State.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's be a
Is
good
it
one.
a day game or no? Do you know? Is it a noon game?
Let's see here. I think it is Ohio State Buckeyes. It will be on at 12 o'clock today.
No.
High noon, man.
I do like the earlier games.
Yeah, I do too. I used to
Especially-
remember when we were kids, they played them at like 11.
Yeah.
Remember that? When did
Yeah, I
like 11?
went to some Purdue games that started at
Yeah.
11.
Love those.
Oh, yeah. Me too. Get up and get to drinking early for those of you that drink.
Penn State 6-0, Buckeyes 6-0. Buckeyes ranked 3rd, Penn State ranked 7th. Yep, that's a big game
That
today.
will be a big game. Good
Michigan will
call.
be interested in that.
Yeah. And Michigan plays Michigan State. Is that?
Oh yeah,
that is
Michigan
today.
loses today.
At Michigan State.
Yeah. Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Harbaugh's going down.
One of their assistant coaches just got
Bamboozled.
it's just that Michigan suspends analyst amid NCAA investigations. So he was an outside analyst for the university
Of Michigan or
for
Michigan
stealing signs.
State? Oh, Michigan or Michigan State?
Michigan.
Oh yeah, yeah. Harbaugh's always got some bullshit going
He
on.
didn't know about it.
Oh, yeah. Right. I thought you were talking about the Michigan State coach. That's
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
crazy thing that happened to this guy.
Doesn't it
I
seem?
mean-
Doesn't it seem like there's stories, whether they're in sports or on the news, that you hear a story or you see something, and you're like, man, that's just nuts. And the very next day, there's a story that makes it worse.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Right.
You're just like,
Looks like he was set up. But
Mhm.
the university was like ready to get rid of him. It's like, God, man, I mean, what happened to justice in this world? It's like,
wasn't that the, and I don't know that I should comment on this story because I don't know enough about it. Isn't there like the Dodgers pitchers the same way?
oh, I was going to bring that up. Oh,
Oh.
that's a complete scam.
And
yeah.
and I apologize.
He lost a $200 million contract.
in
over
his name. I'm sorry.
it. Oh, the pitcher?
Oh, that's if you don't know it, that's fine.
No, I knew his name. He had to go to Japan.
really. But to your point, though, that they only took
I'm gonna look
one
it
side of the story and they moved on.
Yeah, they took one side of the story, moved on. It was totally Trevor Bauer sexual assault, and it later came out that she had been texting people asking how to set him up and to do all this stuff, and make and made comments about what she was going to do, and people were like, "You should do this, and this is how you get him," things like that, and. Looks like he was set up, so he was up to renew his contract, and he was one of the top pitchers in baseball. I think he lost the option to go negotiate over a $200 million contract. So then he had to go play in Japan, and he was a star in Japan. They loved him there. So it's just it's we live in some weird times, man.
Don't
You,
we?
you live in a time where two of the richest men in the world start a trucking company and can't make it happen, and then you get these allegations, man, of
But
just
you also
nonsense.
going back to that story though. You what you just said. Two of the world's richest men started a trucking company and they can't make it, and they bring somebody over from Amazon that has
zero.
But I'm sure they're paying him a salary that is
Probably
going to
million-
probably help
million.
you get out of it
Right.
quick. Because if you can't afford to pay salaries, then
Yeah,
just saying, I don't know.
yeah,
I mean, there's always going to be transportation or logistics, and if you have a small piece of that pie, the billions of dollars a year industry,
yeah.
there's no reason why you shouldn't make it. But if you don't, I mean, I get it. There's just greed and just
I mean, let's review it again. Two of the richest men in the world
Mhm.
and the smartest man in technology
Right,
couldn't make it.
right,
It's
Right.
bizarre.
right. Good, yeah.
It's tough to run a
That's
trucking company.
Yep. Well, and also a $5.3 billion a year company can't make it. You're like, huh?
And they get free money all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
On more than one occasion.
Right, right. David B. I know you got a good random thought.
I do. So one of the things that Tony and I discuss, and we don't really talk about it seriously, and maybe we should seriously make this happen, is we've thought about spinning off and doing a side podcast about music. And I think it would go really well. I mean, if we bring in the right people. But anyway, Tony, there was a band that formed in 1962, and this week put out a brand new album.
A band formed? Oh, I know this.
I'm sure. I know you know it.
Yeah.
Look at that staying power.
You know what? It's so funny you mentioned that because that's a great topic. I watched the whole video of the song last night for the first time. One of the news feeds I had said, check this out. And
Rolling Stones put out a brand new album this week.
Amazing.
First one in 18 years.
Yeah.
I was listening to coming over. I'm a huge NPR dork, and they were interviewing Keith Richards, and he sounded like he had all his wits about him.
Yeah.
It was a great interview, and the gentleman that was interviewing him says, you got one more album in yet? And he just laughed. He goes, we're going to keep going till we drop. So it's just kind of, you hear a band that formed in 1962 putting out an album today, this week in 2023.
And there's so much history in that because
and kudos to them.
Yeah, that's
just
amazing,
a good,
man.
Feel good story. I mean, you're like, this is so awesome.
I mean, it's Keith Richards is 79.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mick Jagger, I believe, is 80. Let me look here. Yeah, he's 80.
If they put a succession plan in place, if they have people to, like
their kids,
Charlie
Ward,
when before Charlie Ward had passed, he had said that if something happens to me, here's who you need to bring in. And I forget that gentleman's name, but they brought in that gentleman as to take over for when Charlie Ward had passed or whatever. So it was, just one of them things you're like, the Rolling Stones put out a new album this week. That's so cool.
It's amazing. That is cool. Cause then it sounds really good actually. And,
it does sound good.
It's pretty good. And then, what I thought of when I was watching it last night is if you know anything about the history of the Beatles, Mick Jagger and the Beatles had a rivalry, right? Big rivalry. And one of the funny things to watch is Paul McCartney gets inducted to the Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with the Beatles and as an independent artist. And he asked Mick Jagger to induct him. And Mick Jagger talks a little bit about their rivalry. And, you got to do it like Paul does it. You don't dress, you need to dress a little more like Paul does. So the Stones had heard that their whole time, right? So it's just amazing the path they wove has lasted so long. I mean, that is truly amazing history.
They were the original British invasion, or whatever, right?
Right, yeah.
And that's what was.
They were
that
part
what
of that.
Was that what the competition was? To get to the States and
the Beatles were a little more lucrative to the networks, because they had short hair
but the Rolling Stones staying power.
They had the staying power. That's well said. The Beatles had the media power, and the Stones had the staying power because they outlasted them. Except Paul McCartney's still performing, I guess, but he's not. That's not the Beatles, right? So
in listening to that story this morning, I didn't realize how influential Muddy Waters was to Keith Richards and what's their lead singer's name?
Mick Jagger.
Mick Jagger. Yeah. He was such an influence to them. It just is just baffling. Not baffling, but interesting to hear that. I didn't realize that was.
It was. So here's what I found out recently because we like talking about music, you and I. So and I like looking at these. Rick Beato's got something. Professor of Rock on YouTube. They've got really good channels. And the whole Beatles anthology that was videotaped of their last recording session what you find out, okay, so Led Zeppelin, Dazed and Confused was a 50s blues song by a black artist. A lot of those bands were so heavily influenced. That's all they did was listen to the blues. They were into America's jazz and blues scene, and then just basically took that and elevated it into rock.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of it was copied.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, like we talked a few weeks ago, somebody like Elvis. Elvis was heavily influenced by.
Oh yeah, his legs shaking and gyration. He had seen a black artist do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then couldn't get viewed from the waist down on Ed Sullivan show, right? They blacked them out or whatever. But yeah, I mean,
interesting.
It is. I mean,
it's just so weird to hear. Yeah, but I'm glad they're still going, and probably could still go for a long time if they get a succession plan in place. You know, and it's just part of reality that everybody's going to end up kind of, you know, not living forever, but. Keith Richards and Mick Jagger still are doing an outstanding job.
Well, you wonder they've had so many kids and grandkids, right?
Oh, yeah.
I know what you're saying. There's a drummer. There's probably a bassist in the group. There's probably a lead singer in the group.
Yeah.
So it just becomes the new Rolling Stones, right?
Yeah.
And they go for another 100 years.
But if you look up, but I bet if we looked up, like, just say, I'm just going to throw out a band name, like, let's say either the Association or Earth, Wind, and Fire. I bet they're still going today with not necessarily succession plans, but people that have kind of taken over from when people have left.
Or Chicago, the band Chicago. That's a good one. Good example, because they've had, I think they might only have one or two original band members left. They've all changed. All of them have left. Or passed away, unfortunately.
But then who owns, I mean, is it wrote into a contract on how the band name still stays? I'm just confused.
I don't know how that works. Yeah. But it's amazing.
It's above our pay grade.
Amazing that the Stones only lost one band member and they're all 80. That's astonishing. And I was watching a video of Mick Jagger at a concert recently, and that dude might have more energy than me.
Oh, yeah.
It's like amazing. Like running up and down the stage. Then he did some performance with Lady Gaga, and it's like, wow, man.
Yeah, well, even Keith Richards actually legitimately sounded like he had his wits about him and was looking forward to getting out and performing. And, yeah. It's
good stuff, man. Good topic.
Yeah, just kind of one of them things that you hear, you're like, oh, this would be interesting to discuss. And again, maybe Tony and I do a side little music thing or whatever sometime. But it's always good to read about it because music, there's always good music, and probably a ton of untapped potential people that should have made it bigger, or people that should, you know, like to me, Simple Minds should have been as big, if not bigger than U2. That's just my opinion.
Don't you forget about me.
And so, plus plenty of other
don't you
legit music or whatever. So
what do you think of when you hear that song?
Breakfast Club.
Breakfast Club.
Yeah. High School.
Oh yeah, it's the best.
Was that 1986 probably?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, High School.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. Wow.
A cassette player where you had to actually rewind the cassette to hear the song again.
Yeah, I'd play it, but it
get
freaking yelled at by YouTube. Hey, you mentioned the song too much. Hey.
But if the channel's not monetized, then could you legitimately get away with?
I think I got to figure all that out. Yeah. Like you can only play like seconds of it. The guys that do the reviews of music it seems like they only do like seconds of it. Like I think 10, 15 seconds, then they stop, and then they, or even the people that show you how to play notes off like the songs.
Was it that you referenced that one channel? What was it? School of Rock? House of Rock? What was it?
Professor of Rock.
That's it.
Yeah.
Son of a gun. Yeah. He does a good job.
Yeah, he's awesome. Does a great job.
He gets interviews.
Yeah, he does great. So does Rick Beato. He does good too. I don't know if you've ever seen him. He's more of a intellectual side of it, but yeah, he interviewed Billy Corgan. Butch, the guy who did the grunge sound, really. The guy, he was a recorder, a producer. Yeah, it's an interesting story with Billy Corgan and the Smashing Pumpkins because they were kind of before the grunge started and that sound they had, and then Butch did the grunge. That was the sound he helped create, and then it's just interesting to. And then he did Nirvana, and that just blew it all up. But there were others that were in that sound. You know what I'm saying? That kind of grunge sound. And Smashing Pumpkins were a little bit ahead of that. Didn't get the credit that Nirvana got because that album was just so huge. But Billy Corgan talks about Butch had played the song for him after they recorded it, Teen Spirit.
Yeah.
And he talked about how when Billy Corgan heard it, he was like, that's going to be huge. And so they just knew like it was going to be a huge song.
Sure.
So it's an interesting story. They're great stories on like how some of these music came about, right? Like the other day I was watching, the guy who wrote the song, I'm yours. Anyway.
Is it a new song?
No, it's old. It was like from probably a decade ago. Anyway, Jason Mraz.
I know of who that is, but
yeah,
if you were to play one of his songs right now, I would probably might be familiar, but I don't know. I can say who the artist would be.
I'm Yours is his biggest hit, but he didn't think the song was that good, so he'd only play it in concerts. And then he started noticing that song, like people would just get so wild up with it, and the crowd would get bigger when he played it. And he's like, "What the heck?" So then someone told him, man, you need to put it on your album. So then he put it on his album and he blew up. It's just funny how, like, you know, another good one is, and I heard the artist tell this story, Tommy Shaw from Styx.
Yeah.
So he has to he needs to write a song. He has to write a song and he has to show up to meet the other band members. And he has not written a song. He has no song. So he is in a hurry to catch his flight. He's going to miss his flight. He's in a hurry. And he comes up with the opposite of what's happening. I've got too much time on my hands. So he like writes the whole song while he's heading to do it. And then like
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Just, boom,
he's in the band and that's a hit.
Yeah.
So Shirley Manson with Garbage. I don't know if you know much about Garbage. Is an underrated grunge band. Underrated.
Butch was in that band. The producer I'm talking about.
Really?
Was the drummer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably still is then.
Yeah,
I don't think they've changed over.
No.
And they're from Milwaukee and she's from.
That's where Butch is from.
Yep. She's from Scotland or somewhere over there. I'm pretty sure she's Scottish. And anyway, she botched her tryout with the band and they brought her back, and I couldn't imagine Garbage without her as a lead singer. I mean, they're just she's that good, they're that good, and that's an underrated, to me, that's one of the underrated bands of all time.
Yeah, or how about Angus Young or AC/DC's lead singer dies, Bon Scott, and then Brian Johnson is from England. They're from Australia.
And he's in a different band.
And someone secretively calls him and says, hey, we need you to come here and try out. And he's like, they're not telling him who it is.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, look, I'm in a band. I'm not doing this. I need to know who it is. And then I think it was one of the sisters of Malcolm or Angus was coaching him into coming, and then finally said, I don't think you'll be disappointed. And then he's like, then he walks in and it's freaking AC/DC, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of a shocker. Wouldn't that be? You know, there's a lot of good stories like that out there.
So I'm going to change the subject for just a minute. Tony and I briefly talked about this. I'm the one that normally tries to get most of our guests on here, and how I do that is I email solicit who I think that we can get on. And so a couple weeks ago, there was a young gal that I was watching on YouTube, which is where I find most of our guests. And I'm like, I'm going to reach out to this gal and see if she'd be interested in coming on. And she's like, yeah, sure. I think I can do that. And then, so I say, well, our next interview date and time is at this time, and no response. And I'm like, okay, all right. And I always send a link to one of our shows so they can listen and show that we're somewhat legitimate. So, so anyway,
It's not a scam.
So the next week, I'm kind of looking for a guest. Normally, I try to have our guest booked way in advance.
Yeah.
And so I reach out again, and she goes, yeah. Let's do this again. Give me the link and what? So I send the link, and then she responds back, how much does it pay? And I go,
oh yeah,
it doesn't.
That's a good point.
I said, we don't get paid, so we don't have any way to pay you. And she immediately fired back, not interested. I'm like,
man, yeah.
I'm like, okay, all right. So it's kind of a little kind of kick in the gut right there.
Well, it is, because a lot of these people, Joe Rogan flies them in a night before they do the podcast, takes them out to dinner. I don't know what they pay him. One of my favorite sports talk shows, I can never say the name right.
Pat McAfee.
Pat McAfee show.
There you go.
He pays Aaron Rodgers big time money to come on.
Nick Saban.
Yeah, and Nick Saban. So
he's spreading his wealth is what he's doing, and he admits to that. But we don't have any wealth to spread. So.
No, it's just I mean, it's amazing. I guess if you have sponsors like that,
we're legitimately sitting on the 19th green every Saturday morning.
Yeah, in the low budget studio with the low budget stuff. I mean, we have a nice podcast machine, but it's virtually literally doing it out of the trunk of a car type thing, right? But we got some good quality stuff.
And we have some excellent guests, and we appreciate them coming on for nothing. I don't know.
You think they get something out of it,
Yeah, don't wrap my head around the concept of thinking that you should be getting paid, but whatever. I mean, I don't. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the way things are supposed to go. I don't know.
I mean, if you get that big, I guess you can do it.
We'd have to have a lot of sponsors.
Oh my God, you'd have to have. And you watch a lot of these podcasts. They used to be uninterrupted. You could watch the whole show uninterrupted. Now there's 4 or 5 commercials in between, or you'll see paid promotion in the box.
The one of them that I am, it's kind of growing on me. Not that it was bad or whatever, but the Dan Levitard. Dan Levitard has his own kind of podcast or sports show now that's on YouTube. I wouldn't call it a podcast. But it reminds me of us a little bit, where you're just kind of sitting around and spitballing. Yeah. And I'm like,
I've not seen that one yet.
Yes, So.
Well, that's how Pat McAfee started.
Yeah. And that's still his format.
Yeah, it is. And seems like he gets away with what he wants to do. So as long as that's possible, then so be it. I mean, he had a great show. I really liked it. It was so raw. And he's got a good staff there. Right. They're funny.
Yeah. Pac-Man Jones comes in. I'm
sure
it's good stuff. Pac-Man Jones.
Probably does. Yeah. Probably, if he's paying Aaron Rodgers, he's probably
I would imagine Pac-Man Jones' staff, though. I wonder if he's staff.
Yeah, I don't know who's all staff on that show.
He went to West Virginia, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right.
So probably about the same time Pat McAfee did.
Man, good stuff.
Yeah. College Game Day producer Tony.
College Game Day. It's going to be a good one. Going to be high noon in Columbus.
Sectionals and football have started around here. I think that was last night.
New Pal won.
Did they?
New Pal beat Newcastle 63-0.
Holy cow.
It's a smoke job.
Isn't it amazing that season just goes by so fast?
It does.
Already sectionals. It just seems like it just legitimately started.
And what Indiana does is everybody gets into the playoffs, right? And where I grew up, that's the only top 2 teams in a conference get into the playoffs. You don't go play somebody that's in last place in a playoff game. It's like, but you know what? It all works out for
IU plays Rutgers today. Yeah. Purdue is off, I think. Notre Dame. I don't remember. Listen to the Ship's Gonna Happen podcast. I don't remember if
you got Penn State, Ohio State, Oklahoma, UFC, Air Force, Navy, Tennessee, Alabama be a good game. 3:30 today. Washington State and Oregon's on at 3:32. That'll be a good game. Minnesota, Iowa, for Michigan State at 7:30 p.m. That'll be a good game. I don't see Notre Dame on here.
I don't either.
Are they off?
Oh, must be their bye week also.
It is their bye week. And they've been playing well. Coming off a big upset, right? Of USC.
Yeah.
That was a good game.
They lost 2 games.
Yeah, they've lost 2 games. They lost to the Buckeyes. And then I think that game after the Buckeyes was a letdown game for them. Let me look here. I forgot who they lost to. Yeah, they killed they lost. Oh, wait, no, they beat Duke.
Excuse me.
Oh, they lost to Louisville, right?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they lost to Louisville. And that's, coming off the Notre Dame game, Notre Dame Duke game, where they barely won by 1 touchdown. So then they played USC. They smoked USC, man. So they'll play Pittsburgh next, and then they got a big game coming up with Clemson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So that's their ACC commitment. You're one of them.
One of them, yeah, because they played. They actually have a pretty. Well, it's bad they lost 2 games.
Yeah,
but
they're not going to get into the.
Well, once that's what's tough about this thing is if you take a risk playing somebody like Ohio State in the first 2 games of the season,
Right.
You might want to get a couple tune-up games in before that. But
I bet that'd be a great campus to kind of tour,
what's that?
Arcade Notre Dame.
Oh, you ever been there?
But I don't remember.
Oh, man, dude.
I've been there for a football game, and then I think I was there for some odd reason long time ago, but it's been so long.
Man, I'll tell you what, I am been to a lot of places, a lot of concert venues, a lot of sports places. I literally had chills going into Notre Dame Stadium.
Did you go before the add-on or after the add-on? I went before they added on to the stadium.
I went after. This would have been in mid-2000s.
Yeah, I went in the mid-90s.
Yeah. It was one of the best. They were playing Syracuse.
I played Oklahoma when I went.
Oh, wow. That's a big game.
Yep.
It was, and one of the better experiences I had too, believe it or not, was at Purdue. I went to see Purdue play Ohio State. Place was packed. Ohio State was ranked number 1 in the nation.
Was it a blackout?
Yeah, it's a blackout.
Yeah,
and then, and Ohio State only won by a touchdown.
A night game?
Yep.
Yep.
It was awesome. It was a great game.
I bet.
Yeah. And then that was a good one. And it's always great to go to Wrigley, right?
I went to a Northwestern football game.
That's Old Dice Stadium. Yeah. That is second place I ever went to see a football game, and went to a lot of those games. Lots of, I can remember we would always go to see them play Ohio State, and they would just get trashed, man.
I went when they played Michigan State, and I was surrounded by green. Surrounded by green.
Yeah.
They traveled well. They're dick fans, too. Michigan State fans are dicks.
Yeah, I can attest to that because Indianapolis used to do the NCAA tournament, right? And so I was there, and the game's getting pretty good. And I mean, I don't even think Michigan State's playing. And they got Michigan State. They're getting ready to play, and I got these fans in front of me, and they all got the big finger things, and they're sticking them up. Michigan State ain't playing,
right?
And I'm like, I can't see. You got like 5 fingers sticking up in front of everybody's face.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they sell those stupid things. Yeah, I know what you mean about them. They travel well, too. They're like Wisconsin fans. Wisconsin could have a game in Hawaii, and somehow they'll have 20,000 fans show up.
I'm curious to see how that's going to go now with the Big Ten being on the West Coast now, too.
Where they're going to put them, yeah.
Or how those fans are going to travel to.
I think they will.
Yeah, I think so, too.
I think they will. Yeah, I know Wisconsin fans seem to go everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
What's funny to me is, how are they going to do this schedule? Because you're telling me that I would like to see it. It doesn't, I mean, what they got like a month left of games, but I mean, it gets cold in Minneapolis.
Right.
No, I'd like to see USC playing in 20-degree weather in Minneapolis, wouldn't you? UCLA,
Rutgers, and
yeah,
UCLA.
What's even worse?
Yeah.
Rutgers, Maryland. Oh man, USC has postponed the game.
Different times.
Yeah, well, where they put them, they put them all in. I don't think it. You know what really scares me is teams. I think this really hurts. Like, I think it hurts Northwestern. I think it hurts Iowa, Minnesota. I just think it hurts those teams because USC is more of a dominant school, right? USC's like USC's like another Michigan, Ohio State coming into the conference, right? So is Oregon,
right?
I mean, it's tough.
Yeah. So I'm in my head. I'm still thinking about that, the Northwestern scandal and other scandals that have happened, and Northwestern's going to bite it over this scandal versus other schools, or just be like,
right,
moving on.
Yeah, I know.
Just saying, just it is what it is.
It's sad.
Yep.
Ship's gonna happen. Yep. Number 117.
It's always a pleasure, producer Tony.
You too, brother. Man, it's awesome. You got anything else?
No, I'm good. It's just college game day. Marion plays. It's the Franciscan Bowl today against St. Francis University at home. It's a beautiful tailgate day. Great day for football.
It's going to be a decent day, right?
Yeah, 67.
Wow. Get some work done around the yard.
Yep.
Around the house, I should say.
From the 19th green.
From the 19th green.
Smash that like button. Click subscribe. We appreciate everybody listening to the Ship's Gonna Happen podcast.
We're out.